Please put your phones on silent or on vibrate. Ashrei o ish asher liholach batzas rishoyim ubederech hatoyim lo yomot uvemoishev leitzim lo yoshev ki im beseres adonai cheftzoi uveseirosa yehage yom v'loilo v'hoyok eitros lo apal gemoyim asher piryu yitin beitoi ve'olei lo yiboil v'choyla asher yasei yatzliach lo yichein horishoyim ki im kamoitz asher titfene ruach al ken lo yokum rishon b'mishpot v'chatoyim badas tzadikim ki yodeya adinoi derech tzadikim v'derech rishoyim toivet. Happy is the one who has not followed the counsel of the wicked, nor stood in the path of the sinners, nor sat in the company of the scornful. Rather, that one's delight is in the Torah of the Lord, meditating in God's Torah day and night, and will be like a tree planted by the streams of water, that yields its fruits in season, whose leaf will not wither, and whatever that one does prospers. Not so the wicked, who are like the chaff that the wind drives away. Therefore the wicked shall not survive judgment, nor the sinners in the assembly of the righteous. For the Lord loves the ways of the righteous, but the way of the wicked is doomed. Mizmor leDavid, Adinoi mi yager b'holecha, mi yishkem b'har kodshecha. Hoylech tamim u'foyel tzedek, v'dovid emes b'lvavoi, le'rogal al l'shoinoi, le'asa l're'ei ra, v'cherpo le'nasa al karoivoi. Nivze be'einav nimos, v'esire Adonai yechabet. Nishba l'hara v'layamir, kaspe le'nasam b'neshech, v'shoichat l'noki lo'ilokach. Oise eile lo'yimoit lo'yoilam. Mizmor leDavid, Adonai roi lo'yechzor. B'hinois deshe yarbitzeini, al mei menuchos yenaleini. Nafshi yeshoivev, yancheini b'maglei tzedek, oy leman shemoi, gam ki yeilech begeitz al moves, lo yirara, ki yato imadi, shiftecha, umishantecha, heimo, Yinachamuni taharoich lefonai shulchan neget zoideroi dishanto Hashem en roishi koisi revoya achtoi v'chesed Yehidefuni kol yemei chayoi V'heshafti B'veis Adonai Li'oirech yamim. A psalm by David. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He revives my soul. He directs me in the path of the righteousness for the sake of his name. Even if I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they will comfort me. You will prepare a table before my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil. My cup is full. Only goodness and kindness shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord for many long years. We are here to pay final respects to Florence Harris, Fega Bas Mordechai, the matriarch of the Harris family, exceptional wife and mother and grandmother, great-grandmother, and friend to many. As we see everything through the prism of the Torah, we just began this week the portion of Vayetze. Vayetze Yaakov me Beersheva Vayelech Harono. Yaakov left Beersheva, a city in Israel, in Eretz Yisrael, and went to Haran. He had to flee from his brother He went to find his wife. But the Orach Chaim HaKadosh tells us, based on the Zohar, Vayetze Yaakov me Beersheva, Vayelech Chorona is the journey of every single soul, every single Jewish soul. Yaakov is the neshama. Reference of leaving Beersheva, which means leaving the source, Be'er Mayim Chaim, leaving the source of living waters, which is where the soul basks in the aura of God. Be'er-Sheva also means the place of an oath, where the soul is administered an oath before it comes down to this world, that it should follow on the path of God. Vayelech Charana, and Yaakov went, the neshama comes down to go to a place called Charan, which means in Hebrew, Charoin Af Shel Olam, a place that angers God, so to speak. But it's for a reason. The soul doesn't want to descend. But God says your mission is to come down to this world. Your mission is to come into a body and to elevate that body, to elevate your surroundings. A beautiful soul descended almost a century ago, coming into a body and being the mama, the Yiddish mama, to be an example for her children, for her grandchildren, for her great-grandchildren. I did not have the merit to meet her in her lifetime, but knowing the family, as we say in Yiddish, the apple fällt nicht weit von der Beimele. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Knowing the children, the grandchildren, the great-grandchildren, that is certainly a reflection of this beautiful neshama, of her character, a smart and strong and classy, dignified woman. And as Luda, the caregiver, just told me before, may she be blessed for her beautiful work, that she was always positive, a positive outlook on life, even if something was hurting her. She said, next day will be better. It's only a little pain. Sitting and looking outside, looking at the scenery, looking at the beauty of this world, she always had a positive twist to life. And just Sunday night when we came to take care of the Ashkava, to take care after her passing, and to give her the proper dignity, the proper kavod hames, and Yisrael went over beforehand, her grandson, to say the last vidui, to say the last confession with her. And Yisrael showed me afterwards a little video how she was interacting with Daniel. Just that, again, was a reflection of what it meant to be a bubby, a great-grandmother. She is 95, 96 years old, and she's playing with the 2-year-old, the 1-year-old. And the way she's interacting with him, it was just something that speaks of this beautiful characteristic of Fega Bas Mordechai. And this only comes with the understanding, as the Torah tells us in this week's portion. Yaakov said, as he slept at the holy place, the Temple Mount, Ochin yesh Hashem b'makom hazeh, v'anochi lo yadoiti. The simple meaning he meant, I slept in this place and I did not know what this place is, how holy it is. But our sages tell us, when there is God by a person, Ochin yesh Hashem b'makom hazeh, where do you find God? When v'anochi lo yadoiti. When the person doesn't see himself as a self-centered, egotistical, narcissistic person, that's when we let God in. You want to know where you find God? By a dignified Jew Yiddish mama, a mother, and as Mark told me, she was always there for them. She was always there for the family. She was there for her grandchildren. And that is, unfortunately, today you see sometimes certain people, even parents and grandparents, they want to be busy in their own world and their own particular pleasures. When you were able to let God in, that's when you're able to be there for other people. A selfless person, has that ability to be there for others. Judaism takes a nuanced approach when it comes to the process, the death process. We rip our clothing, there is burial, there's Shiva, there's Shloshim, there's a year of mourning, as we discussed on Sunday. But at the same time, as the Talmud tells us, we don't cry too much. We cry, we mourn, there's moments of silence, there's moments of grief. But yet we understand, as the Talmud tells us, in the tractate of Avodah Zarah, that when the great sage Rabbi Chanina ben Tradian was sadistically being wrapped up in a Sefer Torah by the Romans because of him spreading Torah, teaching Torah, and they burned him at stake with the Torah. And his students asked him, "What do you see?" And he answered, "I see the parchment being burnt and the letters of the parchment of the Sefer Torah is flying up. One of the great sages, Shalos HaTshuvas Shoel HaMeishiv, Rabbi Yosef Shol Natnazon, said, you know what the meaning of this statement is? He said, the oisius poiches be'aver, that is the neshama, that is the soul. The body is the parchment. A Sefer Torah, a holy Torah, is put together by the parchment and by the letters written on it. If you think about it, the Jewish soul comes into a physical body, a body that looks the same by every single person in this world. But when the soul comes in, it's sort of like the letters that are written on a piece of hide, that before you wrote the holy letters of the Torah on it, it was just a simple piece of leather that could be used for something else, to make a pair of shoes. And yet, when you write the letters of the Torah, it's elevated and becomes the holiest thing to the Jewish people, the holiest thing really to the world. And the same is with the soul coming into a body. This approach, the body, once will go out to the cemetery, the body is interred, yet of course the level of the soul always remains there, but we can't have the body physically to hug her, to kiss her, to interact, but the soul never departs. The soul goes back to its source, and it always remains. It's like a beautiful gem, as the Talmud says. Beautiful gem that always remains a gem. A diamond, even if you lose it, it remains a diamond, no matter where it is. The soul is a precious gem before Hashem, before God, and that remains forever. And therefore, in Judaism, we never fear death, because we know that we have there's two lives. There's a life in this world and the life in the world to come. As the sixth Chabad Rebbe, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak Schneerson, who gave his life to preserve Judaism in the former Soviet Union, in the early 1920s when he was interrogated, one of the interrogation officers, that it was unfortunately a Jew himself, he took out a revolver and he wanted him to speak. And he said, "You see this little toy? This little toy made many people open their mouth." And the Rebbe responded, those people who have one life and many gods might have responded to this little toy. But I have one God, and there's two worlds. I'm not going to open my mouth. And surely he did not. He survived. That is the life of each and every one of us. That we have a life here, but we continue, our soul continues. But yet, the Torah chooses to focus here, in the now. Im Bechekoisei Telechu always speaks about life in this world, about the reward in this world. Because the Torah chooses, God chooses, Ubacharto Bachayim, to live a life here, that every moment should be fused with the sense of purpose, the sense of meaning. And therefore, the Talmud tells us that Rabbeinu HaKadosh, the author of the Mishnah, when he fell ill and he was on his deathbed, and Reb Chia came in and Rebbe was crying. And Reb Chia said to him, doesn't it say that those who pass away with simcha, with joy, shows on their tremendous holy character? And you're crying. Why are you crying? He said, I'm not crying. I'm not afraid about dying, but I'm crying about the Torah and mitzvahs that I won't be able to perform anymore. Livni ani tzorich. Rebbe says, I need my children. So this approach of Judaism, on one hand, the family has to sit shiva. There is the levels that we have to go through in the process of getting used to a sense of avoids. But at the same time, the matriarch of the family needs you. She needs you now more than ever. She needs that the children should continue to make sure that her beautiful legacy lives on. Who will make sure that this beautiful soul is preserved and could continue actually flourishing in the next world? Those are the children, the grandchildren, and the great-grandchildren. We take the analogy we spoke before about the Sefer Torah, about a holy scroll. A body is compared to like a scroll, like a Sefer Torah. And before the Torah was given, God said he needs the guarantors. The Jews answered, we have the prophets and we have the rabbis. Those didn't work. He said, when the Jewish people said, our children will be the guarantors, that's when God said, I will give the Torah. In the same vein, for our loved one to make sure that that Torah scroll remains living forever, who will make sure that that Torah scroll, the Yiddishkeit, Judaism, and the warmth, and the excitement, and the passion for Torah, and for life, and for helping another person, who makes sure that that continues? That is each and every one of us, the children, the grandchildren, the great-grandchildren, that she lives on. You become her extended hands and feet that she can't do right now, but the children could continue that. And when we do that, just like she went through life, and the Medrash tells us that back in the olden days when a ship went out, from one place to the next, the family did not know what's going to happen on the way. You had 6 months, tumultuous waters, devastating storms, and no one knew if they're going to make it. When the family came to the port to greet the family, 6 months later, it was a tremendous joy, a tremendous simcha, a tremendous day of celebration. They survived, they made it. That is the analogy that the Medrash gives for a soul that comes down to this world. As we mentioned before, this is what God wants that we should do. But as we come down, there are many distractions, difficulties. And when a person goes through almost 98 years in this world, and to have children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren who follow the path of Torah and follow their beautiful dreams in life, that is the greatest chus, the greatest merit for this neshama, for this soul. And therefore, as we begin the portion of Vayetze Yaakov left his soul, descends, it comes down. The end of the portion, Yaakov holach ladarko, Vayifka boi malachi Elokim. Yaakov, the soul, goes back, as Jacob was going back to Eretz Yisrael, and he had the angels, they were escorting him in this world, escorting Jacob in the physical world, outside of Israel. There was a change of guards who came to protect him going back to Eretz Yisrael, as the same is with Florence Fega Bas Mordechai, as the mitzvahs, the good deeds, Malachim, the angels that are created, from all the good deeds, the kosher food, and so on and so forth, and just bringing in her Jewish children and her grandchildren and great-grandchildren in this world, that itself is the greatest merit for a soul. So those are the angels that are escorting her to her final destiny, to her resting place. And as we say in next week's portion of Vayava Yaakov Shalom, Yaakov came peacefully and complete to his place back in Eretz Yisrael and Shechem. So may she be surrounded by those beautiful mitzvahs, beautiful angels that are created through what she did in her lifetime. And may we only merit only happiness, simchas, in the family. And as we say in Yiddish, she should be a gute better. She should be a great advocate for the whole family. May God wipe away tears from among us, and we should only have Moshiach speedily in our days, when, as we spoke Sunday, we'll be reunited with our loved ones, with Chias HaMesim, with the resurrection of our dead. And may we say Amen. I'd like to ask Mark Mordechai to come up. Mordechai took care of his mother the last couple of years so selflessly. I'm going to share some words from heart.
Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Rabbi, for your das Chachma, your knowledge, your understanding, and your wisdom. I wish I had a little bit of that. I have a little bit, but you can see what a wise rabbi has inside of him. I want to read a little bit of what I put into the Cleveland Jewish News, just so for those of you that won't have a chance to see it will know. I'm sorry, it was Das Bina B'Chachma. I couldn't even think straight. Anyway, for my mother, Florence Harris, her maiden name, Troop, beloved wife of the late Bernard, my father, loving mother of Elena Harris, Chaim Harris, and myself, devoted grandmother of Sarah and Hannah, my children, Sherry and Beth, Elena's children, Zipporah, Yisrael, Shmuel, Benjamin, Esti, Yehuda, Rachel, and Rivki, Chaim and Bila, and great-grandma of many that we're lucky to have, and dear sister of the late, her brothers Jean and Bernie Troop, and my mom was daughter of her beloved late father Martin and mother Bella Troop. My mom, she loved animals, remembering and telling stories about her beloved dogs, Champy, and when she was a little girl, about her dog Tarzan, all the many amazing stories. I finally remember the many times she read bedtime stories to my children, Sarah and Hannah, stayed up when my daughters couldn't sleep or were not feeling well, excuse me, told them countless stories about her dogs and about life. Mom interacted and played games with my daughters, played the piano, would marvel at just how good my daughters were at basketball and just about any sport you could think of. And she enjoyed watching them ride their bicycles. She would wait at the bus stop for them to come home and taught them several life lessons. The main thing I remember about my mother, first and foremost, she was always there for us. Whatever was needed or just to make our lives better, without waiting to be asked, she was always there. Her kind, gentle, warm smile would light up her room and all of our lives. She was a great lady, a kind and gentle soul, and she will be greatly missed. I love you, Mom. Thank you.
I'd like to ask the granddaughters, Sherry and Beth, to come up, share some thoughts and memories.
My name is Sherry Jensen, and I was Grandma Florence's favorite granddaughter. Now, there's many of you in this room that probably debate that, but Grandma made us all feel like we were all of her favorites. She made everyone feel like that. She was very loving and accepting. She always had a friendly thing to say, and because I lived in California, I didn't get to see her as often as I would have liked. but every time we talked on the phone, she always ended the phone call with "and I love you," and she was always great to speak with. She was also very thoughtful. She always remembered our birthdays. I remember when my children were little, she would always send a card for their birthdays and a check as well, and tried to, have them know her the best way that she could because we lived so far away from each other. She loved to tell stories, like my Uncle Mark said, about her dog Champy, and she would tell a lot of stories about her dog, and I didn't really get how close a person and a dog could be until I myself have a dog, a yellow lab named Ripley, and I truly feel like Ripley's my daughter in a fur coat, like my grandma would say about her dog Champy. Beth and I remember going to her house on many occasions. She would be cooking, and Beth and I would be in the kitchen and kind of nibbling out of the pan, and she would be yelling at us to get out of the kitchen. But we always loved her cooking. I remember when I was younger having sleepovers at her house, and she would sit with us and tell us stories, and in the morning she'd make us tea and toast, and we really enjoyed spending time with her. She was always very beautiful, glamorous, and classy. She looked as if she had never aged, and I will always remember her as having a warm and loving spirit.
I was telling him about how she made the best tea and toast, and it was just bread and water and tea, but it was like the best you would ever have. And talking about Champy, I mean, she took care of her like a person in all ways. Like when she went outside and came back in, she would make sure she was clean. So she was just a really great grandma, and we were all really lucky. And we're gonna miss her, and I just love her.
I'd like to call up Sarah and Anna to come up and share some wonderful memories growing up with Grandma.
I wrote a letter to my grandma, and I'd like to share it with you all. My heart is beating so fast. Dear Grandma, I miss you already. You were my truest friend. You were my everything. Sorry. The most genuine human being I ever had the pleasure of knowing. A beautiful, kind, and exquisite soul. Your heart was golden, and your mind so sharp. The bond that we shared was impenetrable. God has blessed you with 97 years, almost 100 years of living, of beauty, love, hardship, and an undeniable awareness of what this world had to offer you, but more so of what you offered to the world. You taught me things I'll never forget, and instilled values and lessons within me that I'll have for the rest of my days. You told me stories while we drank tea and played cards together. We laughed between the bites of our toast and cream cheese. I wouldn't be the granddaughter, daughter, sister, friend, or woman that I am today if it wasn't for you. My mother and my father raised my sisters and I to be kind people, to provide love and purity, strength and care, to be ourselves. In Judaism, we are held accountable for our actions, more so than our thoughts. I grew up to understand that what you say is important, but what you do is what counts. My grandma taught me the importance of kindness and to never give up. No matter how hard people can try and knock you down, always get back up. You were there for me when at times I wasn't there for myself. You always offered love, support, guidance, and a hand to hold if I needed one. I always needed yours. And I want to thank you for that. You understood the parts of me that I never showed anyone else. Some days we had conversations with our eyes. Words weren't needed because we already knew. You really understood me, Grandma. And I'd like to say that I knew you too. I loved tucking you in at night. And I know you waited for me to come home. After a long day of work, I always look forward to it. I loved taking care of you, being there for you. I loved loving you like you had loved me all my life. You had a passion for nature, of watching the tree branches sway in the wind. You loved animals, and you really loved Champy. But most of all, you really loved our family. But what makes it even more special, oh, I'm sorry. You always told me, Hannah, there is no doubt in my mind that I love my family. But what makes it even more special is that they love me back. Grandma, you are the backbone to this big and beautiful family that we are blessed to have. The roots to make this all grow. You and Grandpa started it all. I wish I had words to truly express the way that I feel about you, but I just don't. It's just something I feel. What I do know is that I love you with my whole heart. I don't feel the same anymore. You have been there for me since the very beginning of my life, and I'm grateful to say I was there for you until the end of yours. I still received your beautiful smile in the last moments of your life. I'm thankful I was there to kiss you on your cheek and tell you that everything will be all right. I want to thank you for everything you have done for me. I want to thank you for how true you were to yourself. You taught me that every day is a new start to something amazing, and that the purpose of life is to find it. I learned from you that it is important to take care of yourself, to nurture the ones that you love, to respect the person that you are. You had this beautiful sense of hope and appreciation for life, this amazing perspective of being positive and never looking back in life, just moving forward. I always called you a tough cookie. I loved being silly with you. I loved being myself with you. And I loved your piano playing. You told me that your left hand is making a symphony with your right, and I'll never forget that. I loved everything about you. Your face will be engraved in my heart, always and forever. You lived and laughed and loved and laughed. I love you with everything I have, Grandma. Be with your mother now, and your father, and Grandpa Bernie, and Champy, and everyone else who have missed you. Family is forever. The memories will carry on. May you rest in peace. So, my grandma was probably the biggest supporter that I've ever had in my life. I could tell her things that she has never heard before, or I couldn't really tell anybody else, but she always would sit there and listen to me and always just tell me that everything's going to be okay. My grandma was the epitome of class. She would talk about New York City, like she would go there all the time, and she would ride on the train, and she had these experiences that were like no other. I've never had someone tell me those like all of her experiences were these defining moments in her life, and she would express those with such amazing things to me. And I really admired my grandma, and we were very close. I didn't take care of her during her last days like my sister Hannah did, but I still went over there, and I still went there when I could, and I did try to go over there as much as I could. And each time that I went over there, she really taught me that you just have to move, like you have to have the positive outlook on life. Even if she was in pain, even if she wasn't having the best day of her life, she always taught me that the next day would be better. And she taught me to always try my best in life. I remember I would go over to her apartment. She used to live behind the Heinens in University Heights. And I would go over to her apartment, and I would help her clean. And that was kind of part of my allowance because I wasn't working. And I remember I cleaned her mirror with Windex, and I kind of went over a little bit, and I missed some spots. And she saw, and she said, "Sarah, I want to thank you so much for coming over to help me clean, but if you're going to do it halfway, don't come over at all." And she's like, I'll still give you your allowance or whatever. But she's like, and then I scrubbed her oven. I left some spots in the oven too. And she would always teach me to always do things fully. If you're gonna do something, you do it right. And my dad taught me that never be afraid of hard work. And my mother taught me that as well, but my dad really ingrained that in me, and my grandma, and that probably comes from my grandma. That has to come from somewhere. She taught me conviction. She taught me to always stand by your word. And sometimes I, just with life and being a teenager, I wouldn't call her as much as I should have. And she would tell me, she called me. I remember Alicia was right beside me, and my grandmother called me, and she said, "Why didn't you call me yesterday?" And I said, "Grandma, I'm sorry, I was busy." And I would always tell her I would call her, but this day she called me and she said, "Don't try, just do. Do not try, you just have to do it." And I remember my partner Alicia, my fiance, she's taught me that too, and she did remind me a lot of my grandma also. And my grandma, those are just a couple memories that I could think of right now. I can't really think, I didn't prepare anything. I was too in shock. I never really thought that this day would come, but she lived a great life. She had an amazing life. She had all of her family always supporting her. She always supported her family. If it weren't for her, I wouldn't have some of the things that I have. I wouldn't be able to do some of the things that I did, and she always got me out of trouble. I made some stupid decisions, but she always was there to bail me out. And not that that's expected, because like Rabbi Gans said, a lot of parents, a lot of grandparents are not like that. They will not help you. Sometimes they'll just let you struggle. But my grandmother never let me struggle. She might have had me have that experience, but she always was there for me. She always was there for everyone in my life, whether it was family or friends or just people in my life, but she was always there. And Champy, she would always talk about Champy. Her love for animals was one of the most amazing love for anything that I've ever seen in my life. And we have 3 animals of our own, and I like my grandma to know that, you know, I got that from her, I think, and my love of animals. And we would always play cards, and we would play Steal the Old Maid's Bundle, and I had never heard of that game in my life, but until, you know, she taught me it. And so just, she was an amazing person, an amazing mother, an amazing grandmother, and she will be very missed, and may she rest in peace.
ברוך אתה ינס. מבקש סליחה בשמי כמשפחה. אם לא נהגנו, לא כיבדנו כמו שצריך. I spoke a few words and people use now. Everyone understands even more than me. I ask forgiveness if we didn't act always in the right way. If we didn't honor you, because we needed to honor you. We're standing here with the phenomenal merit of 97 plus years of phenomenal example. An example of optimism, of strengths. Raising children is not the easiest thing to do in this world. You can talk, and as many people have said, you have to do. Mom not only talked to us, but was a shining example of optimism, of responsibility, doing. Shining example of always looking to improve something, whether it was moving the furniture here or there, or looking to see whether the soup needed a little bit more salt or not. Educating children more than words is that example. Chazal tells us, our sages tell us, there's many levels of giving charity. The highest level of giving charity is giving someone the what with, to do with, for himself. Mom gave us the what with, to do with, to build ourselves. I've been asked many times, 97 years plus, how did your mother do it? I'm sure, tell you, many times I would call, check on Mom and see how you're doing. And there were days that were not so good. And I'd ask Mom, how are you feeling? And she would say, today not so good. Tomorrow will be better. You've heard that before. Tomorrow will be better. That optimism was phenomenal. Phenomenal. We were raised by a mother that only listened but heard. We're raised by a mother that hearing was internal and in the same way gave back. We're taught, I remember a sentence that my mother would say all the time to me, Bobby, you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. I ask Hashem, as Gant said, it's our job support that soul on her journey. I ask Hashem that we'll have the strength, the knowledge, and the faith to be the shining examples, to continue lifting up that soul. That optimism, that teaching of responsibility, that giving, was probably the biggest recipe that we merited having Mom for so long. It was amazing to see, especially the last year or two of Mom when she was bedridden. And then she was stuck in a small room with a small window. But she would look out in that small window and see the leaves rustling on the windowsill. She would tell me how beautiful those leaves and the movement, how happy she was when she would see a small bird come and land on one of the branches. Mom always looked of the half cup full and the half cup empty. When we all merit, may we all merit continuing that heritage, that lesson of doing and Mikadesh Shemayim. I'll just say one last thing, as the Rav mentioned this week's Parsha. It's written that Yaakov went out and walked too. We learned from Mom that every action is important. When you leave something, don't just leave, go. Thank you. The feelings there. I have to say a special thank you to my brother, who, as much as we tried to help from there and there, we weren't there. He was there, 24/7. It was no small job. Also have to thank Luda. Luda was a tremendous, not only caretaker, but almost as a sister, almost as a daughter. It was more than just work, it was love. Thank you.
We rise for the memorial service. El mole rachamim shoichein meroimim hamitzei menucha nechoino al kanefei ashchina v'ma'alois hagdoish u'mutohoidim kezohar Oroki amasirim es nishmas feige basre Mordechai shalcho le'olama ba'avur shnod v'tzdaka badasko ras nishmosa began Eden tei menuchasa Lochem al rachamim Yastirei b'sefer knafav le'olamim V'yitzroi b'tzroi rachayim Es nishmasa Adoinoi unachalasa V'sonuach al mishkava b'sholoim V'noimar Amen. O God, full of compassion, who dwells on high, grant true rest upon the wings of the Shekhinah, the divine presence, in the exalted spheres of the holy and the pure, who shine as the resplendence of the firmament, to the soul of Feiga Basra Mordechai, who has gone to her supernal world. For charity has been donated in remembrance of her soul. May her place of rest be in Gan Eden. Therefore, may the All-Merciful One shelter her with the cover of his wings forever, and bind her soul in the bond of life. The Lord is her heritage. May she rest in her resting place in peace, and let us say, Amen. The interment will be in Mount Aleph. Shiva will take place at the Harris home here in Beechwood on Halberton Road, 22107, Halberton Road.